Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Shrev, your usual host of the Sly Cooper Wiki, and today we're looking at Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. Now, we've already looked at the North American version of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, but there's a bit more of an intricacy to those specific versions. So what we have in front is the English version that released in North America, the United States version. I have a video on this that I'll link in the description. But we also have two slightly different versions that released in certain regions in Canada and in the Latin American regions. Now, at first glance, these all look fairly similar, and they really are fairly similar. There's not too many differences there, and most of those differences are mainly technical. They're not really game-changing in any sort of way. The first difference we'll note is obviously the language. So the reason why you can tell that these are like French Canadian versions and Latin American versions is just simply from the language that is on the covers of the games. So obviously the United States version has only English on its front, no other languages. The French Canadian version comes with both English and French. That's evident from the only on PlayStation banner here. It also includes a French translation, as well as that cross by notice, which includes the French translation for the English text. Additionally, the ESRB rating also includes a French translation. Similarly, the Latin American version is only in Spanish. Now, the reason why this might be more indicative of a North American release as opposed to maybe a PAL release or somewhere else where Spanish is spoken outside of North America is due to the fact that it does have an ESRB rating. The Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or ESRB, operates primarily in North America, specifically Canada, Mexico, and the United States, which is why all three of these versions do have the ESRB rating on them as opposed to something like a PEGI rating or a different other rating system. This version in particular has only Spanish. There's little English to be seen anywhere. It is purely in Spanish with no accompanying English translation besides that ESRB rating. Moving to the spine is where things get a little more interesting, though not too much. You still get the same title in the same position, in the same style, so really that's not the interesting part. We'll notice that these identifiers are slightly different from one another. So just to make sure that we're oriented correctly, the top one is the English-only United States version, the middle one is the French-Canadian version, and the bottom is that Spanish-Latin American variant. And all three of these have slightly different identifiers and slightly different region codes. So the top two indicate that they're Region 1 variants, whereas the bottom, Latin American version, indicates that it's compatible for all regions. Now, you might know that the PlayStation 3 isn't region locked, so you would be able to use this disc in any PS3. The problem comes when you want to get DLC for these games. You'd have to download the proper DLC for the proper region, and it has to be associated with the same region as your PlayStation 3. So you can't get Region 1 DLC for, say, a Region 4 PlayStation 3, but you can get Region 1 game discs for a Region 4 PlayStation 3. Interestingly enough, there is a distinguishing feature between these three games. United States and French Canada has the Region 1, whereas the Latin American version has Region All compatibility. This honestly doesn't make sense to me because, as I'll talk about a little more in this video, all three discs in these games are identical. I played through them, I've looked at them, they are the identical game. They do not have any language options, it's all just English, and I'll get to that in a little bit later. The region codes that each of these games have are also a little different. The English-only United States variant is BCUS 98247. The one in the middle, the French-Canadian variant, is BCUS 99142, and the Latin American variant is BCUS 99042. Again, slightly different, but nothing too dramatic in terms of what you're actually getting with the game. Moving to the back, we see the similar pattern that we saw in the front of the covers. So the English-only North American variant is only in English. The French-Canadian variant is in both English and French, and as such moves things around a little bit to accommodate for both languages. And the Latin American version is only in Spanish, with the exception of that ESRB rating, which is in both English and Spanish. Interestingly enough, the French-Canadian version does downsize the art of Sly and the Gang a little bit to accommodate for the French text, and it also downsizes the size of those screenshots, again to accommodate for the text. Interestingly enough, while both the English-only and French-Canadian variants have the us.playstation.com URL, the Spanish version has a www.latam.playstation.com. That LATAM is short for Latin America, which indicates that this game was intended for releasing there. Moving to the inside is where, well, we don't really see much else. We see the same pattern that we've been seeing before. The inside jacket, which you may recall does contain the controls for Sly, Bentley, and Murray, is also present in the French-Canadian variant and the Latin American variant in the associated languages that we've seen previously, the Spanish language in the Latin American version, and both English and French in the French-Canadian version. So, I mean, really it's not too much to look at here. It's just the same things we've seen in different languages in the exact same spots. The discs is where the least interesting comparison occurs, because these discs are the exact same discs. There is really nothing to talk about with these discs. Physically, they look the same. All the fine print and sort of thing is the exact same, and popping them into my PlayStation 3 yielded no differences. There were no language options for Spanish or French. It was all in English, not even subtitles for those other two languages. All three of these discs were purely in English and no other language, which brings me to my confusion about why there was a distinguishment in the region code on the spine of the games that we saw earlier, because theoretically these discs should work on all PlayStation 3s just fine, and because this game didn't have any DLC, there shouldn't really have to be any of that problem with sort of DLC being in a different region, which makes me curious as to why there are different region codes assigned to these three identical games. Additionally, we also get a guarantee policy that's in Spanish. This comes with the Latin American variant. We don't see that in the other two versions, and it really just goes over the guarantees that come with the game and not too much else. But it's there if you feel like you need that. And with all that said, that brings us to the end of this rather uninteresting unboxing. Now, don't get me wrong, I do get pretty excited when I do see some minor differences, especially in those French-Canadian versions that we've seen previously, but this unboxing was honestly a bit underwhelming. There wasn't really much to discover here. The discs being the exact same was probably the most disappointing aspect of this whole endeavor, but I guess it is worth it for science at the end of the day. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button. If you're new here and want to see more unboxings like this one where we try to look at different regions, definitely hit that subscribe button to see more of those. And if you want us to unbox something sooner rather than later, let us know in a comment down below and we'll see what we can do. Until then, this has been your host, Shrev, a bureaucrat of the Sly Cooper Wiki, your #1 resource for anything and everything Sly Cooper. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.